Hey there, travelers. Before we dive into today's story, drop a comment below telling us where you're tuning in from. Now let's begin our journey into the unknown. The fog rolled in from the river like something alive, dense, purposeful. It swallowed the road ahead until my headlights barely cut 10 feet through the murk. I'd driven through worse. Backwoods Louisiana during hurricane season, the Adirondacks in January whiteout. But this felt different, wrong. The kind of wrong that makes the animal part of your brain scream to turn around. I kept driving. Sunset River appeared gradually through the gloom. Population 800, according to the faded sign. Established 1847. No welcome committee. No promises of small-town charm or historic landmarks. Just a warning. Drive safely. Our children play here. Except I didn't see any children. Didn't see anyone. Main Street stretched 6 blocks of crumbling brick buildings, half of them shuttered. A general store with soap-streaked windows. A diner called Murphy's with flickering neon. The Riverside Inn, 3 stories of peeling white paint and sagging gutters. At the far end, a church steeple stabbed up through the fog, its bell tower dark. I parked outside the inn, killed the engine. Sat there listening to the tick of cooling metal and the wind scraping branches against siding. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my jaw ached from clenching. 31 years since that night. 31 years of hunting, and this was the first time the scent trail had felt this strong. The motel clerk didn't look up when I entered. He was maybe 60, liver-spotted hands, reading a newspaper from 3 weeks ago. The lobby smelled like mildew and burnt coffee. "Need a room," I said. He studied me without lifting his head. Took in the weathered canvas jacket, the scarred knuckles, the eyes that had seen too much. I watched him decide I was trouble, then decide he didn't care. "How long?" "A week, maybe more. 50 a night. Cash up front." I counted out $350. He slid a key across the counter. Actual metal key, not a card. "Room 217. "Anything I should know about the town?" I asked. His eyes flicked to mine. Something moved behind them. Fear, maybe. Or resignation. "Keep your door locked after dark. Don't walk near the river at night. Mind your business and you'll be fine." "People go missing here?" He went back to his newspaper. "People leave. It's a dying town. Folks move on." "How many this year?" "I don't keep count." But his hands trembled slightly as he turned the page. "Breakfast is 6 to 9. Continental only." Room 217 smelled like industrial cleaner and old cigarettes. Single bed, scratched dresser, bathroom with rust stains in the sink. I dropped my duffel on the bed and walked to the window. Second floor view of Main Street. From here I could see the general store, the diner, and the church. I pulled out my notebook, flipped to the page I'd read 100 times during the drive north. Sunset River, Maine. Population decline, 40% in last 30 years. Missing persons reports, 23 in past decade. Official cause, economic migration. Local folklore, the death shepherd. Feeds slowly, patient, old. The intel had come from a hunter I'd met in Vermont. Jim Beaver, 72 years old, retired but still sharp. He'd been tracking patterns across New England for 50 years. When I told him what I was looking for, an ancient vampire, methodical, territorial, his face had gone pale. "Sunset River," he'd said. "I know someone who went there in '63. Good hunter, experienced. He made it out, but barely. Wouldn't talk about what he found, just said, 'It knows your name before you speak it.'" Jim had gripped my arm. "Landon, if you go there, don't trust anyone. The whole town might be compromised." I closed the notebook, checked my weapons. Silver knife and ankle sheath, wooden stakes wrapped in cloth, vials of holy water, a Glock 19 with blessed ammunition, though bullets rarely did more than slow them down, and my grandfather's blade. 10 inches of silver, hand-forged in 1962, etched with symbols I'd never fully understood. He died before teaching me their meaning. The sun was setting. I had maybe an hour of light left. The diner was warmer than the inn, but just as empty. A waitress in her 50s stood behind the counter, refilling salt shakers with mechanical precision. Her name tag read, Diane. She smiled when I entered, but it never reached her eyes. "Just you?" "Yeah." "Sit anywhere, hun." I took a booth near the window, position with a view of the entrance and the street. Old habits. Diane brought me coffee without asking, dark and bitter. "Passing through?" she asked. "Maybe. Depends." "On what?" "On whether there's work." She studied me the way the desk clerk had, measuring, calculating risk. "We don't get many newcomers. What kind of work you do?" "Problem solving, the kind most people can't handle." Her smile cracked at the edges. "We don't have those kinds of problems here." "Everyone has problems, Diane." She walked away without responding. Through the window, I watched a sheriff's cruiser roll past, moving slow, predatory. It stopped at the light across from the diner. The driver, mid-50s, graying, heavy-set, stared directly at me, held the gaze for 5 seconds, then drove on. Message received. New blood in town. Being watched. When Diane returned with my order, burger, fries, nothing special, I kept my voice casual. "How long have you worked here?" 23 years. Seen a lot of people come and go then. That's what small towns do. People leave for better opportunities. All of them? Her jaw tightened. Most. What about the ones who don't leave? The ones who just, vanish? The coffee pot in her hand wavered. Hot liquid sloshed close to the rim. She set it down carefully, deliberately, then leaned in. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "You should leave. Tonight. Before dark settles all the way in." "Why?" "Because I've seen men like you before. Seen them ask questions. Seen them go looking." Her eyes glistened. "And I've seen what comes back." "What comes back?" She straightened, wiped her hands on her apron. When she spoke again, her voice was normal, almost cheerful. "Enjoy your meal, hun. Let me know if you need anything else." She walked away. Didn't come back. Through the kitchen window, I saw her on her cell phone, speaking urgently. I ate quickly, paid cash, left before the sheriff could return. The library was 2 blocks east, a brick building with a copper roof gone green with age. Hours posted on the door. Monday, Friday, 10 to 5. It was past 6 now, but light glowed in the second-floor windows. I tried the door. Locked. I knocked. Waited. Footsteps. Slow. Cautious. The door cracked open. A woman peered out, late 60s. Silver hair in a tight bun, glasses on a chain around her neck. "We're closed. I need information about the town's history. Come back Monday." I wedged my boot in the doorframe. "It can't wait." She studied me with eyes that had witnessed decades of small-town secrets. "You're the one staying at the riverside. News travels fast. It's a small town. We notice strangers." She glanced past me at the darkening street, especially ones who ask dangerous questions. "You're Evelyn Cross." Her face went rigid. "How do you—" "Jim Beaver told me to find you. Said you were the only one left who remembers." The name worked like a key. Something shifted in her expression. Grief, recognition, and something else. Hope, maybe. She pulled the door wider. "Get inside. Now." The library smelled like old paper and lemon polish. Shelves stretched floor to ceiling, crammed with books that probably hadn't been checked out in years. Evelyn locked the door behind us, drew the curtains, then led me up the stairs to her office. "Jim is still alive?" she asked. "Retired, Vermont. He's the one who told me about Sunset River. And he sent you here." She sank into her chair like her bones ached. "God help you. You knew my grandfather, didn't you?" She looked up sharply. "Who was your grandfather?" "Tom Boyd. He came here in 1963. The color drained from her face. "Boyd. Jesus. I knew you looked familiar." She removed her glasses, rubbed her eyes. "Tommy was... he was the bravest man I ever met, and it still wasn't enough. He survived." "Did he?" Her laugh was bitter. "He left town barely alive. Lost 3 fingers, broke his ribs, and never spoke about what he found in that church basement. But survive? I don't think Tommy Boyd survived at all. He just kept breathing. She opened a desk drawer, pulled out a leather journal, edges worn, pages yellowed, set it in front of me. He left this with me, made me promise to give it to anyone who came looking, said his family would come back someday, that the bloodline couldn't let it go. She pushed the journal across the desk. I thought he was crazy. But here you are. I opened it. My grandfather's handwriting, cramped and urgent. October 15th, 1963. I found it. The thing that's been feeding on Sunset River for over a century. It calls itself Thanatos, the Death Shepherd. It doesn't hunt like normal vampires. No frenzy, no excess. It tends this town like livestock. Takes one person every few months. Never more than the population can sustain. Keeps them afraid enough to stay quiet, but not desperate enough to fight back. It knows me, knows my name, knows my father's name. Said the Boyd line has potential. Said it's been waiting. I'm going after it tonight. If I don't make it back, burn this journal. Burn the whole goddamn town if you have to. But don't let it spread. The entry ended there. The next page was blank except for a single line, written in a different pen. I failed. I'm sorry. TB. He came back 3 days later, Evelyn said quietly. Crawled out of the church more dead than alive. Wouldn't let me call an ambulance. Just took that journal, ripped out whatever he'd written in those 3 days, and told me to keep the rest safe. She gestured at the leather cover. That's all that's left. Whatever he saw down there, he didn't want it written down. Did he say anything else? Just one thing. She met my eyes. He said, "It let me live. That's worse than dying." I closed the journal, felt its weight. 30 years my grandfather had lived with this failure. 30 years of knowing it was still here, still feeding. Where's the church? Landon, if that's your name. You need to understand what you're dealing with. This isn't some feral vampire you can track and stake. Thanatos is old. It's been here since before this town existed. It's patient, strategic, and it's protected. Protected how? She walked to the window, pulled the curtain aside an inch, pointed at the street below. 3 people stood in the fog, not moving, not speaking, just standing there, facing the library. Thralls, Evelyn whispered. It has dozens of them, people it's fed on but didn't kill. They're bound to it. Watch for it. Report anyone who gets too close. How many in town? I don't know. Maybe 20. Maybe more. You can't tell just by looking at them. They seem normal. But at night, when it calls, they respond. I studied the figures below. One was the sheriff, another was the motel clerk. The third I didn't recognize. They know I'm here. They've known since you crossed the town line. Thanatos felt you arrive. She turned back to me. It's been waiting for you, Landon. Just like it waited for your grandfather. The Boyd blood. It means something to it. Then I'll give it what it wants. That's what Tommy said. Her voice cracked. I lost my daughter 30 years ago. Sarah. She was 16. Beautiful. Smart. Wanted to leave this place, go to college, see the world. Tears slipped down her weathered cheeks. The month before she was supposed to leave, she vanished. They found her body in the river 3 days later. Coroner said drowning, but I saw the marks on her neck. 2 small punctures, barely visible, and her blood. There was hardly any blood. She gripped the back of her chair. Thanatos feeds on the ones who try to leave. It keeps this town captive, keeps us here, aging and dying, one generation after another. And anyone who fights back. She gestured at the journal. You see what happens. I stood, tucked the journal into my jacket. Where's the church? End of Main Street. White steeple. But you can't go tonight. Thanatos is strongest after dark. If you go now, you'll die. Maybe. Landon. I've been hunting these things for 31 years, Evelyn. Since I was 16. Since one of them tore my family apart in front of me. My voice stayed level, but the old rage simmered underneath. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm not here to study it. I'm here to finish what my grandfather started. She sagged. Then you're already dead. Maybe, but I'm taking it with me. I left her there, standing in the amber glow of her office, a woman who'd spent 3 decades watching her town bleed. Outside, the fog had thickened. The 3 figures were gone. I walked toward the church. The street was silent, except for my boots on cracked pavement. No cars, no voices. Just the wind and the distant sound of the river moving through the dark. The church was older than the other buildings. White clapboard, black shutters, steeple rising like a skeletal finger. The sign out front read, Sunset River Community Church, Esther 1847, all welcome. The door was unlocked. Inside, the sanctuary was narrow and cold. Pews lined both sides of a center aisle. Candles flickered near the altar, but there was no electricity. The air smelled wrong, not incense or old wood, but something organic. Decay hidden under floral perfume. I walked slowly down the aisle. Every instinct screamed that I was being watched. At the altar, I found the door, hidden behind a tapestry, heavy oak, reinforced with iron bands, locked. I tried the handle anyway. It didn't budge. Whatever was down there, it wasn't meant to be accessed from up here. Not without a key. I photographed the door with my phone, noted the symbols carved into the frame. Protection wards, binding sigils, things I'd seen in other vampire lairs, all designed to keep something contained, or to keep hunters out. I left the church the way I came. No confrontation, no answers. Just more questions and the growing certainty that whatever lived beneath Sunset River had been here far longer than the town itself. The fog had thickened by the time I reached the street. I checked my watch. Almost 9. Full dark now. I should have gone back to the inn. Should have regrouped, planned my next move in daylight. Instead, I walked toward the river. The Sunset River cut through the east side of town, slow and black under the moonless sky. A walking path ran along the bank, cracked asphalt overgrown with weeds. Benches faced the water, wood rotted and splitting. No one came here at night. Diane's warning echoed in my head. Don't walk near the river after dark. I found a bench with a clear view of both directions. Sat down, turned off my flashlight, let my eyes adjust to the gloom. Hunting vampires is mostly waiting, patience, watching for patterns in the dark. Most people can't sit still for hours, can't quiet their minds enough to notice the small things. The shift in air pressure when something moves nearby, the way birds go silent before a predator appears. The particular quality of silence that means you're being observed. I'd been sitting for 40 minutes when I felt it. The temperature dropped. Not gradually. All at once, like someone had opened a freezer door. My breath misted in front of my face. Across the river, something moved through the fog. Not walking. Gliding. Smooth and deliberate like water flowing uphill. I didn't move. Didn't reach for my blade. Predators key on movement, on fear responses. If you stay still, sometimes they lose interest. Sometimes they test you, see if you'll run. The shape stopped directly across from me. Maybe 30 feet away, obscured by the fog, but definitely watching. I could feel its attention like a physical weight. Minutes passed. The cold intensified. Ice crystals formed on the bench beside me, spreading in fractal patterns that seemed too geometric to be natural. Then it spoke. Not words. Not exactly. More like a voice that bypassed my ears entirely and formed directly in my skull. Boyd? My name? It knew my name. You came back. Not you came, but you came back. Like it had been expecting me. Like the Boyd bloodline returning was inevitable. I forced myself to breathe normally, to stay seated, to meet its gaze even though I couldn't see its eyes. The shape moved again, closer to the water's edge, for just a moment, for the fog parted enough for me to glimpse something, tall, pale, human-shaped but wrong in ways I couldn't articulate. Then the murk closed in again. Your grandfather screamed for 3 days. Did he tell you that? My jaw clenched. I still didn't respond. He begged me to kill him, promised me anything. His soul, his family, everything. A pause. I let him leave instead. That was crueler. The thing in the fog shifted. I heard water lapping against the bank, disturbed by movement I couldn't see. "You should leave too, Landon Boyd, before you learn why he never came back." Then it was gone. Not walking away, not retreating, just absent, like it had never been there. The temperature returned to normal. The ice crystals on the bench melted. I sat there for another 20 minutes, making sure it was really gone, then stood on legs that had gone stiff with cold and tension. Whatever I just encountered, it wasn't a mindless monster. It was intelligent, patient, and it knew things about my family it shouldn't. I walked back to the inn through empty streets, hyper-aware of every shadow, every darkened window. The weight of unseen eyes followed me the entire way. The motel clerk was gone when I entered the lobby. Just an empty desk and the flickering fluorescent lights overhead. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. Never trap yourself in a metal box when something's hunting you. Second floor hallway, threadbare carpet, wallpaper peeling in strips. My room was at the end, door closed exactly how I'd left it. I paused, listened. Heard nothing but the building settling and wind rattling the windows. Key in the lock. Turn. Push the door open. The room was dark. I'd left the bathroom light on, a habit from decades of checking for ambushes. Now it was off. I flicked the wall switch. Nothing happened. Bulb burned out, I told myself. That's all. I pulled my flashlight, clicked it on. The beam revealed my room exactly as I'd left it. Duffel on the bed, grandfather's journal on the nightstand. Nothing disturbed, except there was something on the mirror above the dresser. I moved closer, beam steady on the glass. Writing. Fresh, still glistening, written in blood. 3 words in a script that looked almost calligraphic, elegant despite the medium. Your grandfather failed. Below it, smaller. You will too. The blood was still wet. Whoever, whatever had been in here had left within the last few minutes. Maybe was still close. I spun, blade already in my hand, scanning the room. Empty. But the bathroom door was closed. I hadn't closed it. I approached slowly, pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. Kicked it open. Empty. But the window was open. Second-story window. No fire escape. Just a straight drop to the alley below. I looked out. Saw nothing but fog and darkness. When I turned back, I noticed something else. My duffel had been opened, not ransacked, carefully searched. Whoever did this had gone through my weapons, my notes, my clothes, had touched everything I owned. And on the bed, laid out with deliberate precision, was a photograph. Not mine. I'd never seen it before. Black and white, old. The kind with actual silver halide printing, probably from the 1960s. It showed a man standing in front of the Sunset River Church. Young, maybe 30. Strong jaw, determined eyes. He was holding a knife, the same knife that now sat in my ankle sheath. My grandfather, Tom Boyd. And behind him, barely visible in the photograph's shadows, was a figure. Tall, pale, watching him with eyes that seemed to glow even in the flat chemistry of old film. Someone had drawn a red X over my grandfather's face. I checked the back of the photo. 1 sentence, written in the same elegant script as the mirror. He thought he was the hunter too. I stood there in my violated room, surrounded by the smell of blood and the certainty that everything I knew about this hunt was wrong. Thanatos, the death shepherd, wasn't hiding from me. It was playing with me. And I'd just walked into its game with my eyes wide open. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in the chair by the window, weapons within reach, watching the street below. Waiting for dawn, trying to figure out how something had gotten into my locked room without breaking the door or window, had written in blood. Had left a photograph that should have been destroyed decades ago. Trying not to think about the voice at the river, the way it had known my name, the way it had said my grandfather screamed. By the time the sun rose, I'd made a decision. I wasn't leaving, wasn't running, but I wasn't hunting blind anymore either. Tomorrow, I'd go back to Evelyn Cross, get the rest of the story my grandfather had tried to bury. Because if I was going to face the Death Shepherd, I needed to understand what had broken Tom Boyd badly enough that he'd lived another 30 years but never came back. What he'd seen in those 3 days that made dying seem merciful by comparison. I returned to Evelyn Cross at dawn. She was already awake when I knocked on the library's back entrance, as if she'd been expecting me. Her eyes tracked the bruises on my knuckles, the way I favored my left side, the exhaustion carved into my face. "It came for you," she said. Not a question. Came to my room. Left a message. I pulled out the photograph. My grandfather with the red X over his face. And this. Her hand trembled when she took it. She stared at the image for a long moment, then pressed it against her chest like it hurt to look at. "I took this picture," she whispered. October 17th, 1963, the day before Tommy went into that church. She turned it over, read the writing on the back. He thought he was the hunter, too. Oh God. It's been keeping this for 60 years. "Tell me what happened. All of it. Not the version my grandfather wrote before he ripped out the pages. The truth." She led me upstairs to her office. The morning light through the windows felt thin, watery, like the sun itself was afraid to fully commit to this town. She unlocked a drawer in her filing cabinet and pulled out a folder. Thick. Stuffed with newspaper clippings, handwritten notes, photographs. "Your grandfather arrived here in late September," she began, laying out the contents on her desk. "He'd been tracking disappearances up the East Coast for 2 years, following a pattern: small towns, isolated communities, people vanishing in ones and twos, never enough to trigger federal attention, but consistent, always consistent." She pushed a map toward me. Red pins marked locations from Georgia to Maine. Sunset River sat near the top. "He stayed at the Riverside Inn, just like you." Started asking questions. "The sheriff at the time, Dale Carpenter's father, tried to run him out of town. Said we didn't need outsiders stirring up trouble." Evelyn's smile was bitter. But Tommy was persistent. He found me at the library, asked about local history, folklore, anything that might explain the disappearances. And you helped him. I was 36. My daughter Sarah was 14, smart as a whip, already talking about college. I wanted answers just as badly as he did. She pulled out a photograph. A young woman with dark hair, holding a girl with freckles and a gap-toothed smile. I didn't know it yet, but Sarah only had 2 more years. I looked at the photo, saw the hope in their faces, the future they thought they had. Tommy spent 3 weeks investigating. He discovered the pattern. Victims were always people planning to leave town. Young people with college acceptance letters. Families who'd put their houses up for sale, anyone who threatened the status quo. She tapped a list of names. 23 people in 30 years, all with plans to leave. None of them made it. The Death Shepherd culls anyone who tries to escape. That's what Tommy concluded. He found references to it in old town records, journal entries from the 1800s, letters, property deeds. Always mentions of the shepherd, or the old one. Always the same warning. Stay, and you'll be protected. Leave, and you'll be taken. She opened my grandfather's journal to a page I hadn't seen, one of the entries written before he'd gone into the church. October 15th, 1963. Found the pattern. It's not random predation. It's control. The thing keeps this town locked down, keeps the population stable and compliant. A perfect feeding ground that sustains itself. The locals are terrified, but they're also accepting. They've made peace with it. Better the devil you know, the baker told me. Better to lose one person every few months than provoke it into massacre. But I also found something else. Something in the property records that doesn't make sense. The church was built in 1847, but the land beneath it was purchased in 1701 by someone listed only as T.S. The same initials appear in deeds throughout the town's history. 1730, 1762, 1809, 1847, 1882, 1910, 1947. Always buying property. Always maintaining the church. Always there. T.S. Thanatos Shepherd, or something older? I'm going in tomorrow night. If I don't come back, burn this town to the ground." "He went in alone," Evelyn said quietly. "Told me to wait at the library. Said if he wasn't back by dawn, I should call the state police. The FBI, anyone who'd listen." Her voice cracked. "He came back 4 days later. Not 3. 4. And he wasn't the same man." "What did he tell you?" "Nothing. Wouldn't speak about it. His hands..." She gestured at her own. 3 fingers on his left hand were broken, healed wrong, like they'd been reset without medical care. He had burns on his arms, and his eyes... God, Landon, his eyes looked 1,000 years old. She pulled out the final item from the folder. An envelope, sealed with red wax. My name written on the front in my grandfather's handwriting. "He left this with me. Said if any Boyd ever came looking, I should give it to them. Said you'd need to know what he couldn't say out loud." My hands shook as I broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper, my grandfather's handwriting, shakier than in the journal, written in what looked like dried blood. "Landon, if you're reading this, you found Sunset River. You've met the shepherd, and you're about to make the same mistakes I did. Don't go into the church alone. Don't trust what it tells you. Don't believe it when it offers you answers. I went down there thinking I was the hunter. I was wrong. We're all prey. We've always been prey. The only question is whether we die quickly or slowly. It showed me things, Landon. Things about our bloodline, about why we're drawn to this hunt, about what we really are. We're not heroes. We're not protectors. We're bait. The Boyd family has been touched by something older than Thanatos, something that marked us generations ago. And that mark? It calls to them, makes us visible, makes us irresistible. I couldn't kill it. Tried for 3 days. It was faster, stronger, smarter. It knew every move before I made it. And when it finally got bored, it let me go. Sent me home to live with the knowledge that I failed. But it also told me something. Whispered it while I was chained in the dark. "Tell your grandson I'll be waiting. Tell him the debt comes due in his generation. Tell him the real monster isn't me." I don't know what that means, but if you're there, you're about to find out. Run, Landon. Run far and fast and never look back. Let the debt die with me. But I know you won't. Boyd blood doesn't run. It hunts. I'm sorry. Tom Boyd. I read it 3 times. Each time the words felt heavier. "What does he mean, the real monster isn't me?" Evelyn asked. I don't know. But ice was forming in my gut. A suspicion I didn't want to voice. There's something else. Evelyn stood, moved to the window. Dawn light painted her face in harsh angles. The night after Tommy left town, 3 people disappeared, all in one night. That had never happened before. Always one at a time. Always spaced out. But that night, it took 3. Who? The baker who'd warned Tommy, the sheriff's deputy who'd been helping him investigate, and my neighbor, an old woman who'd given Tommy a place to stay when the inn refused him. Evelyn's reflection in the window looked like a ghost. It was sending a message. This is what happens when you interfere. And your daughter? 2 years later. She got accepted to University of Maine, full scholarship. She was packing when... Evelyn's voice disintegrated. They found her by the river. Coroner said drowning, but her neck... The punctures were so small, barely visible, but they were there. I gave her a moment. The grief in this room was suffocating. Evelyn. The thing at the river last night. It knew my name. Knew I was Boyd before I told anyone. It knows everyone's name, everyone's secrets, everyone's plans. She turned back to face me. That's how it maintains control. It has eyes everywhere. Thralls. We don't use that word here. We call them the Watchers. People who've been touched but not killed. They're bound to it. Report everything they see, everything they hear. They seem normal during the day. Hold jobs, raise families, go to church. But at night... She moved closer, lowered her voice. At night, they belong to it. How many? I've identified at least 15 over the years. But there could be more. It's careful. Chooses people in positions of trust. The sheriff, the doctor, the pastor. People you'd never suspect. Sheriff Carpenter. His father was one of the first. The son inherited the position and the bond. She pulled a notebook from her desk. I've been keeping records, tracking who disappears, who changes afterward, who starts acting different. It's not exact, but a sound from downstairs. The library's front door opening. Evelyn's face went white. We're not open yet. No one should be. Footsteps on the stairs. Slow. Deliberate. Multiple sets. I drew my knife, moved to the office door. Listened. 3 people climbing. I could hear their breathing. Synchronized. Mechanical. Wrong. Evelyn! A voice called up. Male. Flat. We need to talk to your friend. Sheriff Carpenter. How did they know you were here? Evelyn whispered. They've been watching since I arrived. I scanned the office. 1 door, 1 window. 2nd story, but survivable if I had to jump. Is there another way out? Fire escape. Far window in the reference section. But the footsteps reached the top of the stairs. Landon Boyd, the sheriff called. We're not here to hurt you. The shepherd wants to talk. Wants to clear up some misunderstandings. I didn't respond. Moved to the window. Looked down. Alley below. Dumpster I could potentially land on if I was lucky and stupid. He says you have questions about your family, the sheriff continued. About what really happened in Connecticut. Says he has answers you've been searching for 30 years. I froze. How does he know about Connecticut? Evelyn breathed. Because he's been watching me, I said. Probably since I started hunting. Maybe longer. 3 figures appeared in the office doorway. Sheriff Carpenter, the motel clerk, and a 3rd person I recognized from the diner. A young guy, maybe 25, who'd been bussing tables. Their faces were slack. Eyes unfocused. But they moved with purpose. The shepherd doesn't want to fight you, Carpenter said. Says fighting is wasteful. Says you're too valuable to waste. Valuable how? Come with us and find out. He stepped into the office. Or we can do this the hard way. Your choice. I looked at Evelyn. Looked. She gave the smallest shake of her head. Tell your master I'm not interested in talking. If it wants me, it can come get me itself. Carpenter's expression didn't change. He said you'd say that. Said to tell you. The vampire that killed your family is still out there, still hunting, and it knows you're here. The room tilted. What? Not Thanatos, the clerk said, his voice equally flat. Different vampire. Younger. Vicious. It's been watching this town. Waiting for you to arrive. The shepherd says if you don't accept his protection, it'll kill you the same way it killed them. My mind was racing. None of this made sense. Thanatos, the death shepherd, was the monster. The thing that had been feeding on this town for centuries. Why would it claim something else killed my family? Unless it was telling the truth. Landon, don't listen, Evelyn urged. It's manipulation. It's what it does. But the pieces were shifting in my head. The way my family had been killed. Theatrical. Brutal. Designed to traumatize. That wasn't the methodical culling Thanatos practiced. That was rage. Madness. Different predator. Where is it? I asked. This other vampire. Where? Close, Carpenter said. Watching. Waiting for the right moment. The shepherd says he's been hunting it for decades. Says if you help him kill it, he'll let you leave this town alive. And if I refuse, then you'll die. Either by the other vampire's hand, or... Carpenter gestured at the doorway. More footsteps on the stairs. More watchers arriving. Or we'll make sure you don't leave at all. 6 of them now. Filling the hallway. Blocking every exit. Clock's ticking, Boyd. What's it gonna be? I looked at Evelyn, at the folder on her desk, at my grandfather's letter, still clutched in my hand. The real monster isn't me. Tell me where to meet him, I said. Carpenter smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. His Old Mill, east side of town, midnight tonight. Come alone. And if I bring company? Then the people you care about start disappearing, starting with her. He nodded at Evelyn. The watchers turned and left in perfect synchronization. Their footsteps descended the stairs. The front door opened and closed. Silence. "Landon, you can't go," Evelyn said immediately. "It's a trap. It has to be." "Probably." I folded my grandfather's letter, tucked it in my jacket. "But if there's even a chance it's telling the truth, if there's another vampire out there that killed my family, I need to know. Even if it costs your life? I've been dead for 31 years. Evelyn, I'm just finishing the job." I spent the day preparing, checked my weapons, sharpened the blade, loaded my gun with blessed ammunition, silver-jacketed rounds soaked in holy water. Not that bullets would kill a vampire, but they might slow it down long enough. Evelyn gave me everything she had on the old mill. Built in 1889, abandoned in 1962 when the textile industry collapsed. 3 stories of rotting wood and rusted machinery. The river ran directly underneath it, accessible through the basement. "Hunters have tried before," she told me, using the mill as a trap, thinking they could corner it in an enclosed space. None of them made it out. How many? 7 that I know of, probably more before I started keeping records. She handed me a map she'd drawn. Entrances, exits, structural weak points. The basement floods during heavy rain. If you can lure it down there, you might be able to trap it. But the water's deep, and cold, and full of things that shouldn't be there. What kind of things? People have seen movement, shapes under the surface, heard sounds, not drowning, not struggling, just presence. Like the river itself is alive. Great. Ancient vampire living in a mill full of corpses and supernatural river water. This was going well. "There's one more thing," Evelyn said. "If you do kill it, if you actually manage to destroy the shepherd, something else will take its place. That's what always happens. The territory doesn't stay empty. You're saying the town will still be cursed. I'm saying the town is built on something older than Thanatos. Whatever drew it here in the first place, whatever made this place a feeding ground, that's still here. In the ground, in the water, in the bones of everyone who's ever died here." She gripped my arm. "Save yourself, Landon. That's all you can do. Save yourself and run." I met her eyes, saw the decades of grief and helplessness staring back. "I'll try," I lied. The mill loomed against the night sky like a broken tooth. 3 stories of warped siding and shattered windows built directly over the river. The sound of water rushing underneath was constant, a white noise that drowned out everything else. Midnight. I was 15 minutes early. I was 15. I circled the building twice, checking sightlines, exits, ambush points. The front entrance hung open, door rotted off its hinges. A side entrance led to the basement stairs. Fire escape on the north side, rusted but probably climbable. No sign of watchers, no sign of anything living. I entered through the front. The interior smelled like decay and standing water. Moonlight filtered through broken windows, painting everything in silver and shadow. Machinery hulked in the darkness. Looms, spindles, metal frameworks that might have been cutting tables or support beams. Hard to tell after 60 years of rot. My footsteps echoed on the concrete floor. Each step announced my presence to anything listening. "I'm here," I called out. No response. Just the river beneath me, moving through the dark. I moved deeper into the mill, past empty offices with collapsed ceilings, past rooms where fabric had been stored, now home to black mold and insects, past evidence of previous visitors, graffiti, beer cans, a makeshift fire pit, and something else, chains, bolted into the floor, ending in shackles stained dark with old blood. This was where he'd kept them, the hunters, the ones who'd tried to trap him. I was standing in my grandfather's nightmare. "You came," a voice said from above. I spun, blade up, but he was already gone. Movement in the rafters, too fast to track. "I admire that," the voice continued from a different location. "Despite everything, despite knowing it's a trap, despite your grandfather's warnings, you still came. The boy blood really doesn't know when to quit. Show yourself." "In a moment. First, we need to establish some ground rules." The voice was calm, almost conversational, moving around me in the darkness. "You're armed. That's expected. But if you try to use those weapons before I'm finished talking, I'll kill you. Not as a threat. Just a fact. I'm listening. Good. He dropped from the ceiling, landing 20 feet in front of me. Thanatos, the Death Shepherd. In the moonlight, he looked almost human. Tall, but not impossibly so. Well-dressed in clothes that suggested wealth but not ostentation. His face was sharp, aristocratic, beautiful in an unsettling way. But his eyes were ancient, depthless. The eyes of something that had watched civilizations rise and fall. You look like him, Thanatos said. Your grandfather. Same jaw, same determination. Same fundamental stupidity in thinking you can win. Did you bring me here to insult me? Or did you actually have something to say? I brought you here to make you an offer. The same one I made your grandfather, though he was too proud to accept. Thanatos stepped closer. I didn't kill your family, Landon. I don't hunt that way. I don't slaughter entire bloodlines in frenzied rage. That's not control, that's chaos. Then who did? His name is Constantine. He's 247 years old. Turned during the French Revolution. He's obsessed with hunter families, sees killing them as sport, as challenge, as art. Thanatos' expression darkened. He's been moving up the East Coast for 40 years, targeting families with history, families that know how to fight back. And 31 years ago, he found the Boyds in Connecticut. My hands shook. How do you know this? Because I've been hunting him for decades. He threatens everything I've built, draws attention, creates panic, makes humans organized and dangerous. He's reckless, theatrical, everything I despise. Thanatos moved to one of the windows, gazed out at the night. And when I tracked him to Connecticut in 1993, I was 3 days too late. Your family was already dead. Why should I believe you? Because I can prove it. He turned back. The way they died. The staging. The fact that your sister was left in her bed, posed like she was sleeping. That's Constantine's signature. He arranges his victims. Makes art from their deaths. Bile rose in my throat. I tried not to think about the specifics, about how I'd found them. Where is he now? That's the question, isn't it? Thanatos smiled. He's been watching this town for weeks, waiting for you to arrive. He knows about your hunt, knows you've been tracking me, and he finds that amusing. So you want to use me as bait. I want us to kill him together. You provide the lure. He can't resist a Boyd. I provide the trap. We destroy him, and you get your revenge. Then you leave this town and never come back. And if I refuse, then he'll kill you within the week, probably in the same way he killed them. And I'll have lost my best chance at ending this. Thanatos stepped closer. You're going to die, Landon. The only question is whether your death means something or whether it's just another trophy for a monster's collection. Everything in me screamed not to trust him. He was a predator. A killer. He'd been feeding on this town for over a century. But he was also right about one thing. If another vampire had killed my family, if Constantine was real, then I'd spent 31 years hunting the wrong monster. How do we find him? I asked. We don't. We let him find you. Thanatos gestured at the mill around us. This building, tomorrow night. You'll be here apparently alone and vulnerable. He won't be able to resist. And when he comes, you'll be waiting. We'll be waiting. His smile was cold. Partners, however temporarily. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to tell him to go to hell. But revenge is a poison, and I'd been drinking it for 3 decades. One condition, I said. After this is done, after we kill Constantine, you let this town go. Stop feeding here. Find somewhere else. Thanatos laughed. It was a terrible sound. This town is mine, Landon. Has been for centuries. I'm not leaving because one hunter asks nicely. Then I'm not helping. His laughter stopped. You think you have leverage here? I think you need me alive. Otherwise you would have killed me already. I held his gaze. Let them go. That's the price. For a long moment we stared at each other. Predator and prey. Hunter and hunted. The line between us blurring in the darkness. 1 year, Thanatos finally said. I'll stop feeding here for 1 year. Give the town a chance to recover, to rebuild. After that, I make no promises. 5 years. 2. Final offer. Refuse, and I'll chain you to that floor right now and let Constantine take his time with you. 2 years. It wasn't enough. Would never be enough. But it was more than this town had seen in a century. Deal, I said. Then we're agreed. Thanatos extended a hand. Pale. Perfect. Deadly. I didn't shake it. Where do I need to be tomorrow night? Right here. Midnight. And Landon? His smile returned. Try not to die before then. It would be terribly inconvenient. He was gone. Not walking away, not fading. Just absent, like he'd never been there. I stood alone in the mill, listening to the river beneath me, and wondering if I just made a deal with the devil or simply found a worse one waiting in the shadows. I left through the front entrance, made it 10 feet before I sensed them. Watchers, emerging from the darkness. Not the same ones from the library. These were different, younger, faster, and they weren't alone. In the center of the group stood a man I'd never seen before. Shorter than Thanatos, stockier, with eyes that glowed red in the moonlight. Not metaphorically, actually glowed. Deputy Ryan Foster, Sheriff Carpenter's second-in-command. Interesting conversation, he said. His voice was wrong, layered, like multiple people speaking at once. The shepherd thinks he can use you, thinks he can control you like he controls everything in this pathetic little town. I drew my blade. Who are you? Not who. What? He smiled, and his teeth were too sharp. Too many. The shepherd isn't the only one with eyes here, Boyd. Constantine sends his regards. The watchers closed in. He's very excited to meet you. Says he's been preparing something special. Something that will honor your family's memory. Foster's head tilted at an angle that should have broken his neck. He wants you to know, tomorrow night when you come to this mill, he won't be waiting outside. He'll already be inside. Thanatos will kill him. Thanatos is old, slow, cautious. The thing wearing Foster's face laughed. Constantine is young, fast, creative, and he's been planning this for weeks. The watchers rushed me. I slashed the first one across the throat, non-lethal but debilitating. Kicked the second in the knee, felt something break, but there were too many. They dragged me down through sheer numbers. Hands pinned my arms, my legs. Someone wrenched the blade from my grip. Foster crouched beside me, this close. I could see the wrongness in his eyes. The red wasn't natural light. It was something else. Something moving beneath the surface. Message delivered, he said. See you tomorrow night, Boyd. Don't be late. They released me. Disappeared into the darkness like they'd never been there. I lay on the ground, bleeding from a dozen shallow cuts, and realized the game had changed. Thanatos thought he was using me as bait. Constantine knew it, and I was caught between two ancient predators, both of them smiling. I made it back to the inn just before dawn. Every step hurt. The cuts weren't deep, but there were a lot of them. Death by 1,000 scratches. Evelyn was waiting in the lobby. She took one look at me and went pale. What happened? Constantine. He has watchers here too. Deputy Foster is compromised. Ryan? She looked stricken. No. He's one of the good ones. He's been helping me track the disappearances. He's been reporting to Constantine, probably for months. I collapsed into a chair. The whole thing is a setup, Evelyn. Thanatos thinks he's hunting Constantine. Constantine knows Thanatos is hunting him, and they're both using me as the excuse to finally face each other. Then don't go. Leave tonight. Drive until you hit Canada. Can't. Constantine will just kill someone else from this town. Use them to draw me back. I looked at her. And Thanatos won't let me leave anyway. The moment I try to run, the watchers will make sure I don't make it to the county line. So what are you going to do? I pulled my grandfather's letter from my jacket. Read it again in the growing light. We're not heroes. We're not protectors. We're bait. I'm going to finish what my grandfather started, I said. One way or another, this ends tomorrow night. Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out something small and silver. A locket. Tarnished. Old. This was Sarah's. she said softly. The only thing they recovered from the river. It was around her neck when they found her. She opened it. Inside was a picture of a young girl, the same one from the photograph, but older now. 16. Beautiful. Full of hope. Kill it, Evelyn whispered. Kill them both if you can. But if you have to choose, if it comes down to Thanatos or Constantine, kill the one that took your family. Make it mean something. She pressed the locket into my hand, closed my fingers around it. And if you don't make it out... Her voice broke. Thank you for trying. I climbed the stairs to my room, showered, tended my wounds, then sat by the window and watched the sun rise over Sunset River, Maine. Population 800, dying town, cursed ground. In 20 hours that number would either go down by 1 or by 3. I spent the day alone. No more planning, no more weapons checks, just me, a motel room that smelled like old smoke, and the weight of 31 years pressing down on my chest. I thought about my family. Not the way they died. I'd lived with those images long enough. But the way they'd lived. Mom humming while she cooked breakfast. Dad teaching me to change a tire in the driveway. Anna, 8 years old, reading fantasy novels too advanced for her age and insisting they weren't scary. I'd spent 3 decades hunting their killer. And I'd been wrong the entire time. The irony burned worse than any wound. Around noon, someone knocked. I didn't answer. They knocked again, more insistent. Landon, it's me. Evelyn. I opened the door. She stood there holding a thermos and a paper bag. You need to eat, she said, pushing past me into the room. Can't fight monsters on an empty stomach. I'm not hungry. I don't care. She set the bag on the desk. Soup and bread. Nothing fancy, but it's hot and it's real food. Eat. I stared at her. This woman who'd lost her daughter, who'd spent 30 years watching her town bleed, was here making sure I had lunch. Why are you helping me? I asked. Because someone should have helped Tommy. Maybe if they had, he wouldn't have carried that guilt to his grave. She poured soup into a cup. And because if you die tonight, I want your last meal to be something a human being made for you. Not gas station coffee and protein bars. I ate. She was right. The soup was good. Chicken and vegetables made from scratch, the kind that takes hours. My mother's recipe, Evelyn said, watching me. She taught me when I was 10. Said good food was an act of defiance against darkness. I didn't understand it then. Her smile was sad. I do now. We sat in silence while I finished. When the cup was empty, she stood to leave. Evelyn, if I don't make it back, you'll make it back. But if I don't, the library, all those records you've kept, make sure someone knows. Make sure people understand what happened here. She gripped my shoulder. You make it back, and you can tell them yourself. After she left, I checked my weapons one final time. Silver blade, cleaned and sharpened. Gun loaded with blessed rounds. Holy water in vials strapped to my belt. Wooden stakes, 4 of them, because you can never have too many. And Evelyn's locket, tucked in my shirt pocket. Not a weapon, a reminder. The sun set at 6:47. I watched it disappear behind the tree line, taking the last of the warmth with it. Brittle cold settled over the town like a funeral shroud. 5 hours until midnight. I spent them walking. Through the empty streets of Sunset River, past darkened houses where families huddled behind locked doors, past the diner, closed early, past the church with its white steeple stabbing at the stars. This town had been dying for decades, bled slow by the death shepherd's careful culling. But tonight might finish it. If Thanatos and Constantine went to war here, civilians would die in the crossfire, unless I could find a way to end them both. At 11:30, I started walking toward the mill. The streets were empty. No watchers, no thralls. Even the wind had gone still, like the whole world was holding its breath. The mill appeared through the darkness. No lights, no movement. Just the skeletal structure looming against the night sky and the constant rush of water underneath. I circled it once, checking my 6, looking for ambushes. Found nothing. Either they were very good at hiding, or I was already too late. The front entrance hung open, waiting. I drew my blade and went inside. The interior was exactly as I'd left it. Decaying machinery, collapsed walls, chains bolted to the floor. Moonlight through broken windows painted everything in shades of gray and black. "Punctual," a voice said from above. "I appreciate that." Thanatos dropped from the rafters, landing with barely a sound. He wore the same dark clothing as before. But now I noticed details I'd missed. The way his suit jacket was cut to allow unrestricted movement. The subtle bulge that suggested a weapon hidden somewhere. The way he positioned himself to keep multiple exits visible. He was a hunter too, just hunting different prey. "Is he here?" I asked. "Oh, yes. Has been for hours. Waiting up there in the rafters like a gargoyle." Thanatos gestured casually upward. "Watching us, listening. Probably quite amused by the whole situation." "So why haven't you fought?" "Because he's faster than me. In close quarters, speed matters more than strength or experience." "And this building?" Thanatos surveyed the mill with a critical eye. "Too many escape routes. Too much vertical space. He could dance around me all night and I'd never land a killing blow." "Then why meet here?" "Because you're the bait, Landon. The lure that brings him down to our level. Literally." His smile was cold. "Constantine can't resist a Boyd. It's pathological. He'll come for you, and when he does, when he's focused on the kill, I'll be there." Using me as bait wasn't part of the deal. The deal was, we kill Constantine together. I never specified the method. Thanatos tilted his head, listening to something I couldn't hear. "He's moving. Getting into position. Ready? Do I have a choice?" "Not really, no." A sound from above. Not footsteps, something scraping, metal on wood, deliberate. "Here he comes," Thanatos whispered. Then louder. "Constantine, tired of hiding? Come down and face me properly." Laughter echoed through the mill, high-pitched, manic, wrong. "Face you?" Oh, Thanatos, still so formal, so old-fashioned. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, bouncing off walls until I couldn't track the source. "I'm not here for you, Ancient One. I'm here for him." A shape dropped from the ceiling 20 feet away. Constantine. He was smaller than Thanatos, maybe 5'8", compact build, dressed in modern clothes, jeans, leather jacket, boots. His face was young, early 20s, with sharp features and dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. But his eyes were the same red I'd seen in Deputy Foster, not reflected light. Actual red, glowing like heated coals. "Landon Boyd," he said, grinning. "Finally. I've been waiting so long to meet you." I raised my blade. "You killed my family." "I killed lots of families. You'll need to be more specific." He moved closer, circling, graceful as a dancer. "Oh wait, Connecticut, 1993, the house on Maple Street. Father was a mechanic, mother was a nurse, little sister loved fantasy books." His grin widened. "Yes, I remember them. They screamed beautifully. Rage flooded through me, hot and white and blinding. I lunged. He sidestepped easily, laughing. "Oh, this is going to be fun." Thanatos moved then, a blur of motion cutting across the distance between them. His hand grabbed for Constantine's throat. Constantine twisted, impossibly fast, and raked claws across Thanatos' face, 4 deep furrows that would have been fatal to a human. Thanatos didn't even flinch. They broke apart, circled, 2 predators sizing each other up. "You've gotten slow, old man," Constantine taunted. "How many centuries has it been? 3,000 years of careful hunting, methodical feeding. You've forgotten what it's like to really hunt, to take joy in the kill." "I never forgot. I evolved. You're still a rabid animal playing with your food. And you're a fossil pretending to be civilized." Constantine's eyes flicked to me. "Watch carefully, Boyd. This is what happens to hunters who live too long. They become the thing they hunted. They build little kingdoms and call it purpose. But underneath?" He laughed. "Underneath, we're all just hungry." Thanatos attacked again. This time I saw the strategy. He was hurting Constantine, cutting off angles, limiting escape routes, trying to pin him in a corner where speed wouldn't matter. Constantine saw it too. Instead of retreating, he rushed forward, under Thanatos' guard, and drove his hand into the older vampire's chest. Not a punch. His fingers penetrated like knives. Thanatos roared, grabbed Constantine's arm, twisted. Bones snapped. Constantine's arm bent at an angle that made my stomach turn. He just laughed harder, pulled free. His broken arm dangled uselessly, but he didn't seem to care. See, Boyd? This is what you're dealing with. We don't die easy. We don't feel pain the way you do. Your little knife? He gestured at my blade. Might as well be a toothpick. Then I'll use it to pick my teeth after I kill you, I said. His grin faltered. Oh, you have some fire after all. Good. I was worried you'd be boring like your grandfather. You knew my grandfather? Knew of him. Tom Boyd, the famous hunter. Tracked vampires up and down the coast for decades. But he never found me. Never even got close. Constantine's red eyes gleamed. Want to know why? Because he was hunting Thanatos, following the wrong trail. And while he was chasing shadows, I was in Connecticut, taking my time with his family. The rage came back. Colder this time. More focused. Did you make them suffer? Oh yes. Your father died trying to protect your mother. Noble but stupid. Your mother died begging for your sister's life. Also stupid. I was going to kill the girl anyway. He tilted his head. But little Anna? She was brave. Didn't cry. Just stared at me with those big eyes and asked if dying would hurt. What did you tell her? I told her yes, and then I made sure it did. I moved, not lunging this time, calculated. Low and fast, going for his legs. He dodged, but barely. I'd surprised him. Good. Thanatos used the distraction, grabbed Constantine from behind, locked an arm around his throat, lifted him off the ground. Constantine's broken arm hung limp, but his good hand came up, fingers curved into claws. He drove them backward over his shoulder, aiming for Thanatos' eyes. Thanatos dropped him. Constantine rolled, came up in a crouch. 2 against 1, he panted. Hardly fair. Fair? Thanatos' laugh was bitter. You murdered a child and you want to talk about fair? She was never going to grow up anyway. Humans die. I just accelerated the process. Constantine's gaze locked on me. But you know what's funny, Boyd? Your grandfather could have saved them. He was only 2 states away, tracking Thanatos. If he'd been better at his job, if he'd realized he was hunting the wrong monster, he might have made it home in time. The words hit like bullets. He spent the rest of his life knowing that, Constantine continued. Knowing he failed. Knowing his family died while he was busy chasing the wrong vampire. The guilt destroyed him more thoroughly than I ever could. Beautiful, isn't it? Enough, Thanatos snarled. This ends now. He moved faster than I'd seen him move before. Grabbed Constantine by the throat and the broken arm. Started pulling. Constantine screamed. Not pain, rage. His good hand clawed at Thanatos' face, his chest, anywhere he could reach. Drew blood but couldn't break free. Thanatos slammed him into the ground. The concrete cracked. This is what you never understood, Thanatos said quietly. Speed means nothing when you're pinned. Experience beats youth every time. He pulled harder. Constantine's arm separated from his shoulder with a wet tearing sound. Black blood sprayed across the floor. Constantine's scream turned into laughter. Do it! Tear me apart! But you know what? You're still just as much a monster as I am. You've killed thousands, fed on innocence. The only difference is you're boring about it. The difference, Thanatos said, is I have control. He ripped Constantine's head from his shoulders in one brutal motion. The body collapsed, twitched, went still. Silence filled the mill. Just the river beneath us and the sound of my own ragged breathing. Thanatos dropped the head, studied it dispassionately. 247 years. Reduced to meat in seconds. What a waste. I stared at the remains. The vampire who'd killed my family, who'd taken everything from me, destroyed. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No relief. Just emptiness. It's done, Thanatos said, turning to me. Constantine is dead. Your family is avenged. And now, as agreed, I'll stop feeding on this town for 2 years. We both got what we wanted. Did we? He studied me. You're not satisfied. Why not? You got your revenge. Because killing him didn't bring them back, didn't undo what happened. It's just empty. I looked at the body. 31 years. And for what? For justice, for closure, for nothing. I met his ancient eyes. You were right. My grandfather was right. We're not hunters. We're just people running from grief, trying to give our pain meaning. Thanatos was quiet for a moment. Then what will you do now? Good question. I'd spent my entire adult life hunting vampires, tracking, killing, moving from town to town, following rumors and bloodstains. I'd never had a home, never had relationships that lasted longer than a case, never had anything except the hunt. And now the hunt was over. I don't know, I admitted. You could stay here, help protect this town during the 2 years I'm gone. Make sure nothing else moves in. Thanatos moved toward the exit. Or you could leave, start over somewhere no one knows your name or your history. What about you? Where will you feed if not here? There are other towns, other territories. I've been alive 3,000 years, Landon. I know how to adapt. He paused at the doorway. One piece of advice, from one killer to another. Don't spend the rest of your life punishing yourself for surviving. Your family wouldn't want that. You didn't know my family. No. But I've known humans long enough to understand that the dead don't want revenge. They just want you to live. He glanced back. Think about it. Then he was gone, disappeared into the night like he'd never been there. I stood alone in the mill with Constantine's corpse and the weight of 3 decades of wasted life. The body was still twitching. Vampires die hard, I knew that. But fire makes it permanent. I gathered everything flammable I could find. Old wood, dried fabric, machinery soaked in ancient grease. Built a pyre around Constantine's remains. I struck the match. Dropped it. The fire caught immediately. Spread faster than I expected, racing across the oil-soaked floor, climbing the walls. Within seconds, the entire interior was ablaze. I ran. Out the front entrance, into the cold night air. Behind me, the mill roared. Flames punched through windows. The roof groaned. By the time I reached the street, the whole structure was burning. I stood there and watched it collapse. 3 stories of rot and death crashing down, taking Constantine's body with it. Sirens wailed in the distance, fire trucks on their way. I turned and walked away before anyone could ask questions. The inn was quiet when I returned. I packed my duffel, weapons, clothes, my grandfather's journal. I sat on the bed and opened the journal one last time, pulled out a pen, turned to a blank page at the back. November 15th, 2024. I found the vampire that killed my family. I watched him die, and I felt nothing. I thought revenge would give me peace. It didn't. It just gave me silence. Tommy, if you're watching, I understand now. I understand why you left. Why you never came back. You weren't a coward. You were just tired. I'm tired too. Landon Boyd. I closed the journal, put it in my duffel. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. The fire department is asking questions. You should leave now. E. I texted back. Thank you for everything. Her response, did you kill it? One of them. A long pause. Then, that's enough. Be safe, Landon. I grabbed my duffel and left. The truck started on the first try. I drove through Sunset River one last time. Past the burning mill. Past the library. Past the church. Past all the places where people had died while I was looking the wrong direction. At the town line, I stopped. Looked in the rearview mirror at the flickering orange glow lighting up the night sky. In 2 years, Thanatos would return. Would start feeding again. Unless someone stopped him. But that someone wouldn't be me. I'd spent enough of my life hunting monsters. I drove.